Hey everyone, this is Andrew from Silent Cities coming to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And one of the things I want to talk about is why is it important to save old cemeteries to help keep that history alive. We are near the intersection of Carpenter and Packard. In the background you can probably hear the traffic on US 23. And over my shoulder here you can see a DTE substation. And I'm going to show you around here a little bit. This is a small park. This is Pioneer Terhune Memorial Park. And the entrance to it is in the subdivision. And the reason that this park is here is when people settled to the area in the 1820s, 1825, this is actually where the first cemetery was, on this hill. And the first white child that was buried, her name was Emily Whitmore. That's who owned the property around here. That is who was buried up here. And the people in the area, including one of my ancestors, Benjamin Woodruff, was buried in this area. Where exactly the cemetery was located in this park, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if anybody around is sure where it used to be. But I'm going to show you here the area of the park where the stones are. When the cemetery nearby Ann Arbor opened up, they exhumed a lot of the bodies from around here. So I'm going to show you where I just walked from over there. You can see the substation. The bodies were disinterred and moved to local cemeteries nearby. But not all the people were moved, including a couple of Revolutionary War heroes. As the property passed hands over the years, people lost track that not everybody had been disinterred and moved. And so a farmer that owned the land, thinking that all the bodies had been moved, started plowing up the area to make it useful for him. And some of the headstones were taken and thrown into a nearby creek. And the actual location of where these pioneers, where these American patriots were buried, was lost to time. And that's pretty tragic, I think. And that's why it's so important to keep up cemeteries so that we don't lose where people were buried. Their lives are important. Where did they go to? I'm about to show you. Okay, so now we are at Forest Hill Cemetery in Ann Arbor. We are about a half mile away from the main U of M hospital. And so that's where we're located in Ann Arbor, if that gives you any idea. And we are here so that I can show Benjamin Woodruff. This is my 5 times great-grandfather. He was buried in Pioneer Cemetery. You can see that he died in 1837, but this cemetery that we're in did not open until 1855. And I believe that is his original stone that came over when they disinterred and brought him over here. I don't know who did, or I'm glad that they did. Most of the people that were disinterred from Pioneer Cemetery were brought here. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of Forest Hill Cemetery. There's a few famous people that are buried here. Fielding Yost, Bo Schembechler, the pioneers of Ann Arbor who founded Ann Arbor. Just a beautiful cemetery. Hilly, it's still open. They still have a lot of burials here. And that's just one of the reasons why I like to preserve history, why we want to keep these cemeteries in good shape so that we don't lose them. Big ones like Forest Hill are not going to go anywhere. It's the smaller ones that are located out in the countryside, but even over there in Ann Arbor, that's not the countryside. That's Packard and Carpenter, which is a pretty busy intersection. Most people drive by these old cemeteries. Well, that's somebody's history. And while it's interesting to go to different cemeteries and see where famous people are buried, the more interesting people are the ones that are partially responsible for you being here. It's your history that's important, and a lot of those times, those cemeteries, those are the ones that get lost to time. And that's what we want to preserve. I also love doing work on these stones because of the artwork. I'll show you some of the pieces around here that are just beautiful. It's almost like an outdoor museum. And I'm also going to show you some of the things that I'm able to do to help preserve some of these stones to make sure that nothing happens to them. So I'll take you around Forest Hill. Okay, so we are a stone's throw away from my 5 times great-grandfather. This is my 4 times great-grandfather. John and my grandparents are both here, John and Sally Woodruff. This is one of Benjamin's sons. And I was able to get this stone cleaned up pretty well, get it put back together. Over time, the piece that had been on top, it disappeared. Now, I don't make these pieces, but a friend of mine in Iowa makes them. So if your family's headstone is missing a piece, we can see about possibly adding to it if it had one initially. This piece was put back together, it was cleaned, it's mortared back together. One of the other things that if the stone is laying in the ground, this is John's headstone. This was actually flat in the ground, and when they cut the grass, it sometimes gets run over. Well, that's a brand new base. You pour it, you put the stone in it, and now it is up, it's protected. If a lawnmower or a weed whip comes by, the stone is protected and it'll last a lot longer. That was also cleaned up. And then you can see, got the whole stone. I've got a couple ancestors here and cousins and aunts, and one of the cases with this large headstone is squirrels like to bury things underneath it, so you have to try and add pea gravel and dirt to try and make sure that the stone stays stable, especially on a hill like we are now. And there are 2 more little cousins whose stones were flat in the ground. They are up, and now they are safe. We're put into a new base. And so now I will take you around. I'll show you a couple of the different really neat pieces here that are in the cemetery, and I'll put those up. So as you can see, there's a lot of beautiful pieces of work just in this one cemetery alone. Very peaceful, very quiet, birds. I think that's why I like working in cemeteries, when they're nice and quiet. But to me, that's why it's so important to preserve our history, your history, my history. And so we remember where we come from, and those of our families that haven't even been born yet will be able to know where they come from, as long as we keep preserving them. Talk to you later.